Okay, on this episode of The Spotlight with Shaun O'Rourke, I've got my guest today, Trent Brinkley. He's got a podcast called Taking the Lead, Entertainment, Media, and Culinary. We're going to be talking about I Am Legend with Will Smith, Omega Man with Charlton Heston. We're going to be bouncing around and even talking about what Nick Castle likes on his pizza. Yes, Nick Castle, who plays Michael Myers in the Halloween franchise. It's a great story. You guys don't want to miss it. All right, Trent, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Shaun. How about you? Happy Tuesday. Hopefully this rain and this hurricane goes by.
Oh, God. How many hurricanes have we had this year? It's insane. They just keep coming.
I don't know. You got Isis. This is the remnants of Brienne. I don't know. I've lost track. This whole pandemic has made me lose track of all these storms. You wake up one day in Wilmington, it's 85 degrees and sunny. The next day you wake up, it's rain all day, and then it's going to be sunny tomorrow.
I think
insane.
they went through most of the alphabet and had to switch over to like starting at scratch again. It's just insane. Yeah,
It is.
we're done with hurricanes. All right, so you were telling me that you watch a lot of older films, and we've had I was on your show. You have a show, Taking the Lead. It's entertainment, media, and culinary. So you talk about food and entertainment, movies, and stuff like that. And I had done a couple of episodes of your show, and we always talk about like the old black and white movies and some of the stuff that's just been around for so long, and that people, they get so harped on like the new stuff that they forget that there's classics out there that people can still enjoy to this day, and not just like watching It's a Wonderful Life around Christmas. I'm talking about like there's some really great movies out there, and you've seen you've gone back into the well, back into the past, and you've checked out a couple of films recently. What have you been watching?
So as of late, Shaun, and that's a good point. I've been going back and watching a lot of old movies. I've been watching The Omega Man, and not the Charlton Heston one that everybody remembers, or the Will Smith one, I Am Legend, but the Vincent Price one from 1964. It's the original before Charlton did it in 1975. Yeah. And, that's an instant classic. And for the world that we kind of live in, you can take that kind of plot and what we're going on in the world with a pandemic situation, only be the only one that's immune to the disease. And then you realize, I don't want to give away the ending of the movie because it's a great premise, but it builds up a lot of tension, and you're stuck in between who do you want to pull for? Do you pull for the doctor who became immune and realizes he's alone in the world? Or do you pull for, brothers in the dark that are trying to kill him? Because how do you have the immunity and not share it with the rest of the world while we suffer and only can come out at night? And it's a yin and a yang. And then by the end of the film, you're really stuck of who to pull for. And so I had to go back and watch it a second time and go, I'm going to watch it with an empty slate and do the same thing where I don't know who to pull for anymore, because you're stuck in a rock and a hard place. Do you always want to pull for the hero, or do you want to pull for the villain? And going with the Charleston version, I think Charlton, and that 70s Charlton, he did that, Shaun, I think really well in the 70s. And I think you could say probably in that decade, he's probably the best actor of his time in the 70s. And, I would love to hear your opinion on this. But, Charlton did a great job in his career where he played the hero, but he wasn't afraid to die or get hurt or become, the sad story at the end. So you saw it with Planet of the Apes, where he dies at the end. You saw it in The Omega Man, where he gets a spear thrown through his chest. But before he dies, he gives the vaccination and immunity to a team that survived to make the world a better place. You saw it in Skyjacked, another great movie, where he gets shot, but he doesn't die. But he tells Josh Brolin's dad, James Brolin, that, I don't know if you've seen Skyjacked. That's from 72.
I haven't seen Skyjacked, no.
So Skyjacked is James Brolin plays a schizophrenic former military guy that hijacks a plane, and he wants to get to Russia because he's under the impression that the Soviet Union loves him and that he's going to get a hero's welcome when he gets to the Soviet Union. Talk about a great premise for a movie in the 70s, and even now that's a great premise.
It would definitely be worth it. But hold on, I want to get back to Omega Man, because when you first told me you were watching Omega Man and you were watching the older one, I thought you only meant Charlton Heston. And when you said
Yeah.
I watched the one with Vincent Price, I was like, you watched the one in 1964 with Vincent Price? Nobody watches that one. And they were all based on a book called I Am Legend.
Oh,
And but for some reason, when the Charlton Heston picture came along, I think that was released in, what year was it? Was 71, or they shot it in 70 and it was
71.
released in 71? And
71.
yeah, what's crazy is they shot it in November of 1970 and it was released in January of 71. So they literally shot it, edited it, and released it in like 2 months. That's crazy. Now, the 1964 or the Charlton Heston version, which was 1971, I think what was really cool about what they did with I Am Legend with Will Smith was that my favorite scene in the Charlton Heston one was when he was driving, I think it was like a 1964 red, cherry candy apple red Mustang, just driving it through the streets. Same thing they did with Will Smith. He was driving that red, I think it was a modern day Mustang. They kind of like paid homage to it, that opening scene. One of the things about the Charlton Heston film was it was shot for $4 million. Now that was 1970. So it only made in the U.S. $8.7 million. So if you go with the rule of thumb with the film industry, you have to double your budget to break even. So you could say it only made $700,000 profit. But because there was only like 700 screens back then in North America, that was a huge hit because that kind of money concentrated on like 700 screens is insane. So like now a movie's released on 3,000 screens in the United States, and then 5,000 screens in other markets, and then I think there's something like 13,000 screens in China. But it just goes to show you, like what you said, Charlton Heston, whether it was Planet of the Apes, and I think it was it Escape from the Planet of the Apes that he died? Was it the second one? Because
yes.
at the end,
It was the Escape.
Right, Escape, because the first one, he survived, and there was that whole, they did it, they blown it all to hell at the end. It's my favorite scene with the Statue of Liberty all messed up. And then he died in the sequel at the end there. But Omega Man was a huge hit, the one with Charlton Heston, and he really was, at that time, one of the best actors in Hollywood. I mean, and you could watch, Soylent Green is people, and then Planet of the Apes, you damn dirty. He had that same kind of like, he was the same guy in every movie slightly, and some could say...
He was a master at it.
Yeah, and in the 1950s, you could say he was the first Indiana Jones.
Yes.
He did that film with the Incas. What was it called? Come on.
Well, I'm not his, like, I don't know every movie, but here's a fun fact for you,
Go
Shaun.
ahead.
Like, think of this. If you're Charlton Heston, where your first movie was Julius Caesar in the 40s, okay, another movie that not many people remember. You played, Caesar in the 40s, but when you get to the 50s, you do the 10 Commandments, and you got to play Moses. Who are you playing alongside? You're doing Edward G. Robinson, Yul Brynner. Charlton, in his time in the 50s, must have learned a lot of experience, because in The Buccaneer, he played Andrew Jackson, and you got Yul Brynner playing John Lafitte alongside him. And then you get to the 10 Commandments, and you work alongside Edward G. Robinson, and then Yul Brynner again. So he's got a lot of weight on his shoulders playing Moses, and then he turns around before that and has to play a privateer in a big swashbuckler movie that you would think swashbuckling films then were pretty much dead, because Fairbanks Sr. was gone, Errol Flynn was gone.
Everybody was gone at that point, yeah.
Yeah, but
the cool part about Charlton Heston is, and that was still back when the studios had contracts. So if you had a studio contract, you literally were like, you're in this movie, you're in this movie, you're in this movie, and you're in this movie, and then your year is done. And that's kind of how they used to do it. So there was a benefit to having a studio contract, although, you didn't get paid the money that you did. And, I think one of the last people to have a studio contract in Hollywood was Harrison Ford. He was like one of the last people to have a studio contract, and then when it expired, he broke loose.
Right. But you can now, transition to Ford, because I know you talked about Indiana Jones 5 recently on your page, but Harrison did the same kind of thing where he was in American Graffiti, under another underrated movie of its time.
Oh,
And then,
dude,
and then he goes,
American Graffiti was huge for its time. That made a
I'm,
lot of
I'm
money
talking,
back then.
I'm talking about my
Oh,
generation.
you're
My
talking about your
generation,
generation. Yeah, no, you're
my
right.
generation, right. My generation would remember, Harrison Ford as Han Solo. And I talked about this today at work with somebody that, I had my movie soundtrack playlist playing at work, and the Indiana Jones theme came on, and two people looked at me like, what are you listening to? And it's like, how has this generation never heard of Indiana Jones?
That's
Like,
insane.
it, it,
That's
might-
insane.
you don't have to be a superhero fan or be, a kind of fan of those movies. It's just a movie that anybody, young or old, could sit down and watch and feel a sense of warmth that, it's a good feel good story. It's a
Raiders
guy
of
going to seek treasure.
Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark is because it's set in a certain time period, 1935 or something like that 1934. No, I think it was 35 because then Temple of Doom was 34. It was like a prequel. The Temple of Doom was a prequel. The interesting thing about Raiders of the Lost Ark is it because it's set in a historical time, anybody can watch it, and it doesn't feel dated at all. But listen, we got to go back to Omega Man because we'll go off on tangents because the way we talk about movies, we're just going to be like, so Omega Man. So you watched Omega Man.
Loved it.
One of the actors that was in the film was also in. Was it The Living Daylights, the James Bond movie with Timothy Dalton?
Are we doing the Charlton or Vincent Price version? Because I can tell you who's in the Charlton version.
It's the Charlton version.
So it's either going to be Anthony Zerbe.
It's Anthony Zerbe. Anthony Zerbe was the guys whose head exploded in The Living Daylights. I think it was The Living Daylights when they. No. It wasn't. It was License to Kill. Timothy Dalton did two films. He did The Living Daylights and License to Kill. License to Kill had Robert Davi in it, and anyway, that actor that was in Omega Man, aged, in order to play that character at that point in his life. And it was funny because like I remember watching Omega Man and I kept looking at this guy and I'm like, I know him from somewhere, but he's so young and he's got the special effect makeup on because he's someone who's infected with the virus. And I just couldn't put my finger on it. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh man, dude, that's the guy from, and anyway, so make a long story short, there was a diving scene and there was when you get embolism, you go into a pressurized tank and you have to pressurize to get the bubbles out of your bloodstream from embolism. And they like shoved him in there and then like turned it on full blast. And his head was in a little portal. And he was holding onto his head and he was like, ah, and then it exploded onto the glass. And I just was like, that was the guy. He was an Omega Man. So, just one of those anecdotic, like you just go off on a tangent on something. I wanted to say that because
Here's another tangent about Zerbe.
Go ahead.
He was in Highway to Heaven, where he played the devil's assistant with Michael Landon. And so for those that have never seen Highway to Heaven, he plays an angel in one of the episodes. Vincent French, goes to a bookstore to get a book, and Anthony Zerbe plays Satan's assistant.
Now that I did not know, and I absolutely love that. It's so funny when you look at somebody. I was looking at an actor on IMDb the other day, and their credits went all the way back. I mean, it was crazy. He had like 200 credits on IMDb, and some people may only know them for one or two big hits, but they don't realize that somebody's career spans so many decades. It takes 20 years for an actor to be what they call an overnight success, where like all of a sudden, boom, it hits for you. Most actors in Hollywood are killing themselves for about 20 years before they get their big break, or they're doing lots of day player guest starring roles on television shows. And and you'll be watching a movie and you go, oh, I remember that person in that thing, and then all of a sudden they're Bradley Cooper, and you're like, oh my God, I had no idea that. Well, Bradley Cooper, he didn't take 20 years, but you get my point. It's just one of those deals
Right.
where it's
I
like
mean,
an overnight success in Hollywood is 20 years, and people have no idea that that's the case.
right. And look at, we got a mutual friend, somebody that's been on my show, and you worked with him in a Japanese anime show in Mr. Jordan Rhodes, where,
That's right.
with my interview with him, I watched, and I told him, and I told you the same thing as I told him. I went back and watched everything that he was in from the beginning of his career to right now, where he's leading up to his Broadway play with Ernest Hemingway. But he did a lot of great roles of where he was in Bonanza, and the character he played in Bonanza, this is a topic that was probably never discussed in the West. He played a husband that was abusive to his wife. And for a 1960s Western show to talk about domestic violence, and you play somebody that's mean and aggressive, that's ahead of its time. And then he was in Battlestar Galactica with Richard Hatch, not Richard Page, but Richard Hatch. Rest in peace, Richard Hatch. But, something like that is iconic, where you go from that kind of role in Bonanza to that kind of role in Battlestar Galactica, where you play, I forgot exactly what he played in Battlestar Galactica, but a topic like that is taboo in the 1960s because in the 1800s that was probably never discussed.
Yeah, it totally wasn't. I mean, women didn't even have the right to vote back then, in that particular time period, and so, it was just one of those things that, it was I guess it was a groundbreaking role for Jordan. Jordan Rhodes is a fantastic actor, and
Absolutely.
and again, he's now currently doing something on Broadway, and I'm glad you had him on your show. Going back to your show, okay, so you're cooking now. Are you actually? All right. First of all, is your podcast, has it now gone full video yet, or is it just an audio podcast still?
So it's going to go full video there's three technically. The third one hasn't launched. So Behind the Pages is the media one, where I'm going to bring in writers, journalists, book authors to talk about their latest book. And that's going to be a video one where the author will come on and read some pages from their latest book that they've written. We'll
that's
talk
cool.
a little bit about the dialogue, what kind of went into the story. I'm going to make sure that they sit at their bookshelf or at their library. I'll show them my library, because I think then that way people can see this person's read a lot of books, they've studied a lot, they really care about their writing and putting a lot of meaning into their stuff. And for that show, that's what it's about, because I think books, everybody likes to read something. We all read in some form, whether it's a text message, an email, or an actual book.
Yeah.
And I think books have become isolated, where people are just doing audiobooks in their car on long trips. They're not really holding a book anymore.
Yeah.
And my mother, for a long time, Shaun, in the last part of her career, was a librarian and media specialist. And I really, I'm going to post it later on Instagram and my social media. This is kind of why I got into coaching and working with kids outside of this. And this is a side tangent, is because my parents believed in, you got to read, and you got to read about different cultures and different people and different stories. And
that's something that's
it's
definitely fallen off. I mean, it's so. You have to be happy when someone like J.K. Rowling comes around and inspires a whole generation of kids to read with her books. And every once in a while, you get those authors. And, obviously they turn a lot of properties into movies, but reading is dead. I'm bad about it too. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm a visual guy. I like to watch things. I read a lot of scripts. And script pages, when I'm working on a movie or a TV show, or like when I'm writing my own scripts. But as far as like novelizations, I just don't do enough of it. And it's a shame, because I really should, but it's a time thing for me, But that's really great that your mom was a librarian. So, and it's funny because you're going to have to interview my buddy, Jason Platt. I don't know if you saw one of my, it was kind of like a product review, but it was Middle School Misadventures. My
Yeah.
my good friend Jason Platt's put out 2 books, just on these characters alone. But he's got other novelizations that he's done. He's a graphic novelist, but all his stuff is geared towards middle schoolers, and it's really great reading. Believe it or not, it's like it it's fun. It's fun stuff. So you may want to have him on your show too when you get everything finalized and good to go, because he's great to talk to, and you could talk about his graphic novels or illustrated, children's books, if you will.
Absolutely. And then you got the Hollywood Block Party, which you've been on, and people
Yeah,
can see that.
The Hollywood Block Party. I love that, man.
I know, and that one kind of sets it away what it is. But I alluded to it about Jordan Rhodes. But for those that are new to what that is, that's more of inside the actor's career or an actress's career, and we talk a little bit about their roles, who they worked alongside, what kind of projects they've done recently, what kind of projects did they enjoy in the time, who they would love to work with. And, Shaun, you've been on it twice. The first time we did it was, we just kind of shot the breeze and got to know each other.
Sure.
And then the second time we did it, you told me that you tried out to play Robin, but Chris O'Donnell got the role, but the guy who did the film, forgot his name already. It's
Joel
been 3
Schumacher.
months.
Joel Schumacher. Yeah, the
Joel T.
director.
Schumacher and we talked about how St. Elmo's Fire is one of my favorite movies, and that's the late Joel T. Schumacher's film. And we kind of did a tribute to him to start the podcast, and then we talked a little bit about St. Elmo's Fire and then just movies in general. And then I had Mr. Rhodes on, and we talked all about his career. And when you work alongside guys, and I know you've worked around a lot of guys, but Jordan's been recent, but he worked with Charles Bronson, Carl Malden, Dustin Hoffman was one of his closest friends. He got to meet John Wayne.
That's insane.
Michael Landon, Lauren Green, Richard Hatch. The list can go on with him. His intro, I listed like 60 people that we've all heard of that he's worked alongside. And it's amazing to see that somebody's worked since the 60s and is still going on today. And that's what I kind of want the show to be, where somebody that's my age can go, like, I can go sit and watch something that he's done recently. Or somebody of my parents' generation or our grandparents' generation that says, I don't remember him in Bonanza, but I remember Bonanza. And if he worked alongside, Lauren Green and Michael Landon, then he must have learned something great. And that's what I love to do with that show.
That's what I love about your Hollywood Block Party podcast, is the detail that you go into and the research on the talent that you have on the show. I think it's crazy important. And the fact that you go above and beyond is just, I got to hand it to you, man. I'm a hack. You're like, you're really on it, man. I always like to have, the spotlight with Shaun O'Rourke. These episodes, I like to I pick a friend or I pick someone that I know in the film industry, and I throw them on, and we just shoot the breeze as if we're just in a room having a conversation over a drink. But you do like hardcore like bio research, and I think that's great, man. I really do, and I know that
For sure.
I know that Jordan appreciated the length of like that you went all the way back and watched all his original stuff. How did you even find some of that stuff, that like Battlestar Galactica and the original? Where did you find any of that?
So believe it or not, technology today is amazing, where you can, some of his stuff I had to watch on YouTube.
Right.
So like Mr. Majestic, there was part of it somebody had uploaded on YouTube. I'm not going to share who shared it because I'm sure somebody will flag it.
Yeah, there's some copyright thing going there.
Yeah. But Battlestar, if you download the NBC app, you can search old TV shows, and Battlestar Galactica was in there. I went to his IMDb page, saw the episode that he was in, and then put it on. And funny enough, and this was another great thing was, you say, Mr. Rose, you played a prison guard against Richard Hatch, who's trying to stop a nuclear war. But Edward Mulhare, who we all know from Knight Rider, who played Devin Miles from Knight Rider, played God in the episode. And so he got to work alongside Edward Mulhare. Before Edward Mulhare, who we all know from Knight Rider,
it was in charge of the Phoenix Foundation. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The original Knight Rider, not the 2001 that ruined it.
Yeah.
This was Mr. Feeney before Mr. Feeney.
So you downloaded so you checked out the NBC app, you found it, and then you stumbled on the fact that he was in the episode with
Edward Mulhern,
Edward
yes.
Mulhern. That's great, because then that's like a double whammy right there. Did you bring that up? Did you talk to him about that too? Okay, so did you talk to him about the fact that he worked with someone that went on to do all the work that he did? I mean, it's crazy. These guys must have been in the room together, just shooting the breeze. They're day players. They're doing their thing on the episode. Next thing you know, one goes off, and then down the road, I'm sure he was like, "Oh wow, hey, look, what's his name? Got Knight Rider. I remember working with him on Battlestar Galactica." I mean, that must have been crazy.
It is. I mean, and that's what I talked about with him about a lot of the guys that he worked with. And like Charles Bronson, he did Mr. Majestic, and then Charles Bronson goes on and does Death Wish like 4 years later.
That's
Or you
insane.
got Carl Malden when he was on Streets of San Francisco with, and Richard Hatch was in that. And that's how Richard Hatch got Battlestar Galactica. But Carl Malden, way before that, was in Fear Strikes Out. And if you haven't seen that, I don't know how much baseball you love or anybody loves baseball. That's a great Anthony Perkins, who we all know from Psycho, is in
Psycho.
that. And that's
Dude, I haven't seen
yeah,
that movie.
oh,
Fear Strikes Out. Is
Fear
it?
Strikes Out. Fear Strikes Out. Anthony Perkins plays a baseball player that has a nervous breakdown in the middle of a baseball season. And it's based on Jimmy Pearsall. And it's really well done. And it's Perkins, Carl Malden is in it. And that's kind of cool where I brought that up as well with Jordan and said, that's a movie that I watched growing up. And you got to work alongside Carl Malden. And then Malden, after he did, Streets in San Francisco, he played the original Herb Brooks in Miracle on Ice before the movie we know with Kurt Russell. There's a TV version of it, and you're going to get a kick out of this. This is how much research I did with Jordan and made so many timelines. The Carl Malden version where he plays Herb Brooks. Jimmy Craig, who we all know is the goalie for USA during that Olympic run against the Soviets.
That's exactly right.
Steve Guttenberg, who we all know from Police Academy, played Jimmy Craig.
You're kidding.
I mean, and that's how much research I did. So the list goes on and on of people that he's crossed paths with that we would.
Well, and it's funny because, like, you know how everyone has their bacon factor?
Yes.
Where you're how many
Not a
steps away
baconator.
from Kevin Bacon? Well, I produced a movie called Butchered.
Yes.
And
Great one.
there was an actress, Christina Sipes, who was in that film, and she played a nurse with Kevin Bacon in. It was kind of a remake of Death Wish. What was the name of it? Something Violence. Anyway, she played a nurse after he was beaten up, and so like literally, but I've got one person there. I'm one step away from Kevin Bacon there, but also, I did a short film with Nick Searcy. Nick Searcy was in Castaway with Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks was in Apollo 13 with Kevin Bacon. So I'm like two steps away from Kevin Bacon there, one step away from Kevin Bacon through a movie that I produced on my own. So it's really interesting. And my only point of bringing that up was not to gloat my Kevin Bacon factor, but to let the audience know that, like, believe it or not, the film industry is very small. Like you may watch credits at the end of a movie and they go on and on and on, especially something like Avengers Endgame where you've got 600 credits or something like that. But you find that people work together on a regular basis. You can't connect the dots between one or two projects, but maybe 1, 2, or 3 projects, and just about everybody will at some point work with everyone else. So yeah, it's just an interesting thing.
Right, and you shared the story about, you were in 10 Rules for Sleeping Around, and you get to heckle, Michael McKean, who we all know is Chuck McGill from, Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, but he was in Clue. He was in the original Clue, and you go back and watch Clue and go like, I know his face. The same thing how you did with Zerby. Like, I know that face from somewhere.
But see, I remembered Laverne and Shirley is where I first saw him as a kid in reruns. I would watch Laverne and Shirley, and he was Lenny and Squiggy, the two knuckleheads that would come over their house all the time. And so, yeah, I mean, like, that's where I first had my exposure to him. But also, I'm a huge X-Files fan, and he was on the X-Files. And so, as a regular in a few episodes. So, like, I've always been like, oh, my God, Michael McKean. So when I got the part in that movie, 10 Rules for Sleeping Around, I really didn't know that I was in a scene with Michael McKean until I got on set. They didn't tell me who I was in the scene with. I just had my lines, and it's a day player part. So, you know, they were like, show up on set, do your thing. And they put me up in a hotel and all that kind of stuff. And I go to set the next day, and I was like, oh, my scene's with Michael McKean. I didn't know that. So it's just funny.
Right?
It's funny how that works out.
It is. It's very cool to see. Like, I remember, and this is another thing. I remember watching and listening to Rick Dreyfuss explain working with the late Robert Shaw. And I know Jaws is a huge fan for you, and you love that movie. My father loves that movie. We talked about it before. But Richard Dreyfuss said that him and Robert Shaw butted heads a lot because Robert Shaw was a very aggressive, demanding actor. He wanted perfection. He wanted it his way. But at the end of it, they learned a lot of respect for each other. And Richard Dreyfuss went on to do a lot of great things after that. And, Robert Shaw didn't live much longer after that. But
yeah, Robert Shaw died in 1978, not too long after the movie The Deep, of a heart attack. Richard Dreyfuss went on. I think he won the Oscar for The Goodbye Girl.
Did you ever see Away?
Away?
Away is with John Goodman.
John Goodman. That's the one with where he dies and he kind of haunts his wife. Dude, that makes me cry. That movie makes me cry.
It's a tearjerker. Even for me, I don't cry during movies, but that's a tearjerker where he never got to tell her goodbye.
Goodbye. Yeah.
And that's scary that he comes back as a ghost. It's not like a scary movie, but that's going to be.
It's just like that sucks, and then he gets to watch her, find someone else and fall in love all over again in the whole 9 yards, and it's just really rough. Yeah, it's a rough movie to watch.
Way to ruin the movie. I wasn't going to get to that point, but sure. But I mean, but like it's
Mr. Holland's opus.
Yes, that's a good one. Oh my
God, I think it's Richard Dreyfuss's best work in the history, the body of his filmmaking career is Mr. Holland's opus. I mean, hands down. I love Jaws, but I mean, he was like 26 years old or something like that when he did that, or 25 years old or whatever it was. It took some time. And with Mr. Holland's opus, during the 80s, he went through a bad, drug. He had cocaine problems. It's all, he talks about it. He was, strung out on coke and doing crazy stuff. And he got his shit together and then, put out just movie after movie that was absolutely fantastic. And, Mr. Holland's opus was just like, I mean, just the ending of that, with his, I mean, just the drama of having a child that's deaf and he's a music teacher and the kid can't hear the music. Are you kidding me? Like just that one part of the film, because there's so much more and it spans decades of his character's life, meaning his opus. This is his opus. His whole life is like a musical chapter. And so to this day, Mr. Holland's opus is one of my favorite films of all time.
But that's the whole goal of Hollywood Block Party, is to do this kind of talk where you interview somebody like yourself or Jordan Rhodes, or if you've got, I don't know, Bradley Cooper, we'll use your example, or if we had, Scarlett Johansson, or you had Keira Knightley, you wouldn't go straight to Keira Knightley and say, what was it like to play, your role in Pirates of the Caribbean? If you're a really big movie buff and want to really get to know the person, you would say, what was it like to play, in Star Wars, you were in the Phantom Menace.
That's
How many
right.
people know you were?
That's right. She was in the Phantom Menace. She was Corday, wasn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
She was the double. But
she was the double.
But you wouldn't talk about that.
Well, and it's like, for example, like I am a huge Indiana Jones fan and Star Wars fan, Han Solo fan. So if I ever got into a room with Harrison Ford, I wouldn't even waste my time talking about Indiana Jones or talking about Han Solo. His best film in his entire cinematic career is The Mosquito Coast, where he plays a mad scientist, Alley Fox, that uproots his entire family and takes them down to South America because he believes there's going to be a nuclear war and civilization's going to be wiped out. It is absolutely one of the best films in his career, and he has been on record saying that is his favorite that was his favorite role of all time. Of course, he loves playing Indiana Jones, but Alley Fox, The Mosquito Coast, hands down his best film. There's also another movie called Hanover Street, which is a beautiful film that takes place during World War II, and it's a love story where he plays an airman for the United States, and he's overseas in England, and he falls in love with a woman who's a nurse, who's taking care of war injured, and they have a fling, but he doesn't know she's married, and it finally comes up that she's married, and he feels betrayed and everything, and then he goes on a secret mission, and the secret mission he's on, he's paired with another guy who happens to be the husband. Uh-huh. And there's a scene where the husband's about to die, this bridge is collapsing, and he could make a choice. He could let the bridge collapse and the guy die. I think it was the actor. I know the actor's name. That it's on the tip of my tongue. But he has a choice. He could let the guy die, and go back and be with her, and be the savior, or then have a relationship with her, or he could save the man, and take the high road and let him go back to the wife, and then they'll live a lie that she never had an affair, and he'll just walk away. And of course he takes the high road, because why would everyone would take the high road in that. Nobody would let somebody die, but you could see the conflict on his face, and that's what he's thinking. And Hanover Street is a fantastic Harrison Ford film. So is The Mosquito Coast. Yeah, we can, but that's the thing. Like, all right, so taking the lead, you broke your podcast up into, so basically people, if they want to listen to the Hollywood Block Party, they can specifically stream that, or is it a specific day that it comes on the same feed? Like, and then the media one where you're talking about the authors and interviewing them, and then you've got a culinary one where you're cooking, you're doing dishes, and putting together cuisines. Are they all separate podcasts, or are they all under one umbrella? Like, how would somebody go find your podcast, and then figure out which place they want to watch?
So inside the ingredients, for those that don't know me, I'm a chef de cuisine right now, where I prepare all lunch meals for work, and we do a potato bar, a taco bar, we do a burger and hot dog bar, we do a pasta bar day, and then a chicken wing Friday day. And I've really, for the past 7 months, really have loved this role where, Friday is my favorite day, and not because I love chicken wings, it's because I get to be really creative. And, we have to do 3 of the same flavors every week. We have to do a buffalo, a barbecue, and a teriyaki every week. But the 4th sauce I get to choose. And this is where I love, to expand my culinary knowledge. And so I'll spend like an hour every Thursday and just look up flavor profiles and spices and what things people in other countries put on their chicken. And so I'll go out and talk to the clientele and our customers and say, hey, if you're coming in tomorrow for Chicken Wing Friday, because I know a lot of people come back always for it. What do you think about this week? We do an iced tea flavor.
Iced tea?
And that iced tea, and that scares people because you hear that and go like, chicken and tea, that doesn't sound good. But it was tea, honey, and lemon. So it's kind of like a sweeter version of an Arnold Palmer.
Okay. Oh, dude, that sounds like that would be great on chicken. And I don't eat, I'm a pescatarian. That might be good on fish too. Shrimp. I don't know.
Right, yeah.
You could put that on shrimp. Yeah, definitely. That would definitely go good on shrimp. But go ahead.
Well, like something like that. And you talk about that with people. Or, last week I did a sauce called Obiata, and that sounds like a Star Wars character, but it's actually a wing sauce from Africa.
Go ahead.
You're good. And this one you could really put on seafood because it's delicious. It was chopped tomato, roasted red peppers, garlic, lemon juice, and parsley.
You're getting me hungry.
And it was just a pesto, and you put that on chicken, and people absolutely killed it. And then the first one we ever did, we did honey and sriracha, and that was a sauce that we did on a pizza at a pizzeria place where I met Nick Castle, and people loved it on pizza. But us cooks, cooks are very creative late in their shift. They're tired. They're
Now,
trying to make their
now
food before they leave.
I'm going to jump right in here because you made a pizza for Nick Castle. Nick Castle played Michael Myers in all of the
Yes,
Halloween films. So, what? Obviously, you had a chance to chat him up, right?
I did. And so with Nick Castle, he came in for about a 2 week period at the pizza place that I worked at. And some days he would get a pizza, some days he would get a meatball pasta and a salad to go.
Now,
But
this was all
you know,
because he was filming Halloween Kills, the sequel
yes,
to the 2019 Halloween? Is that what it was? 2019. It came out in 2019. That was the one that I worked on in Charleston, South Carolina. They shot the sequel here in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I was busy working on a Hulu TV series and could not join the crew on the sequel because I was already working on another project, Reprisal, which is on Hulu. If you haven't seen it, you should check that out if you have Hulu. Reprisal. It's a really good series. So Nick Castle's in town. What? All right. So meatballs and pasta. I get that. What kind of pizza did he order?
he was a meat lovers kind of guy.
He was
I mean,
he was a meat lover's guy.
I mean, it fits the profile. A serial killer's got to eat all that protein. I mean, he's chasing around people with kitchen knives. I mean, I mean, he's got to bulk up. I mean,
But
Michael can't look like Gumby. He's got to be a big stocky dude.
He's an older guy though, right? I mean,
He is. He's
yeah.
much older. But you have that moment where you had with Anthony Zerbe where you're watching Omega Man, going back to that, and 007 going, I know that face from
so
somewhere.
wait a second. Wait a second. You recognize Nick Castle without
Yes.
without the
Without being
mask.
Michael.
You just knew
Yes.
him. You just looked and you went, wait a minute, I know that guy. And then what did you
Yes.
say? Did you say, hey man, I know who you are? Like, how did that happen?
So the pizza place that I worked at, and it was a wood-fired oven, and it was an open kitchen. So literally, somebody could sit at the bar, and you could have a conversation with the person. As long as the bartender wasn't making a blended drink or using a blender, you could really have a dialogue. And when his order came up, because I was working the pasta station, I made a look at the pizza guy and said, "Don't look at the bar. That's Nick Castle." And the guy's like, I don't know who that is. I'm like, well, you probably know him because he has a mask on 99% of his career. That's Michael Myers. And again, I pulled everybody aside and they're all went like, I don't believe you. And then you pull it up and they're like, how would you, they had the same reaction. Like, how would you know? You only saw Michael's face for like a split second in 2 films. In the first one, you saw it for 2 seconds before he gets shot and puts the mask right back on. And it's because I saw Nick in Skate Town, USA, which is a movie that not many people have probably heard of. That
Dude,
he
did
was
you
in.
tell me you brought that up to him?
Yes. And he probably was like, how the hell does this kid know this movie? But he came in for like a 2-week period, and we always would treat him like he was never a Hollywood actor, because this is the conversation we had with you before of separating a public image and a private image. And with Nick, it was you just want to be a regular person. You don't want to be known as, hey, look, we got Michael Myers in here. Can I get a photo? Can I get an autograph?
Exactly.
He's just a person. And when he came in, he was in regular clothes. He had a ball cap on. He's much older now. I mean, he just wants to be a regular person. And that's something that I've always preached about myself is you always, when you see somebody like that, you never want to bring attention to that person when they're not trying to bring it to themselves.
Yeah, if they bring it to themselves, if it's Charlie Sheen and he's out there, doing his Charlie Sheen thing, Tiger Blood, then yeah, you could totally like just chum him up. But for the most part, I find that was like when I worked on Journey to the Mysterious Island. I'm a huge Michael Caine fan, and I got to meet Michael Caine. And I had Sir Michael, yeah. And so when I met him in his trailer, I have his book. Hold on a second. I've got his book right here. Michael Caine, The Elephant to Hollywood, and he signed it for me right there. Well, there we go. Best wishes, Shaun, Michael Caine, and I did not go into his trailer. Like I had talked to one of the ADs and I said, "Hey man, I've got his book. Will he sign my book?" And they were like, "Yeah," because it had just come out and I bought it because I'm a Michael Caine fan. And here I am working on a movie with him. And I was in the production office as a PA at the time. And, I didn't want to be that guy. They were like, "Yeah, come to his trailer, come meet him." And I just didn't want to be that guy. Well, he was really sick at the time. He was running a fever. It was like 102 or 103, and he had the flu. And I ended up, after shaking his hand and talking with him and for a minute, I got sick a few days later with the flu, but so did everybody. The whole show shut down. I think like Brad Payton, who's the director of the movie, he got the flu. Like everyone, it hit the whole show. But you have to know that like you can't just run up on people, man, because people have this idea in their head of like who Michael Caine is just because they've seen Batman, or one of his other movies, years ago, Alfie or a Zulu or something, and
Carter.
But he's not that guy. That's a character he plays, and a lot of people can't seem to figure that out. But you've got your pulse on that, and that's what's really cool about your interviews and everything, is that like you have your pulse when you interview someone like that. So what kind of pizza did he eat?
So he was
Nick Castle. What was his pizza?
Nick Castle.
Nick Castle.
He wanted every meat on it possible when he got a pizza.
What? That's awesome.
I'm telling you, Michael's got to stay bulk up. I mean, he can't be Gumby. He's got to be a big, strong, muscular guy that shoves a shotgun through somebody's stomach. I mean, he can't. If he ate a salad, he wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, if I can find this picture, I was talking to you off before we started doing the podcast, and I was working on Reprisal, that Hulu series, and they're shooting Halloween Kills, and the wardrobe department pulls out a rack, and it's like outside the wardrobe building because they're putting chemicals on it, and they're making all the coveralls. They had a whole rack of coveralls. There's like 8 pairs of coveralls, Michael Myers, and they were doing all the different stages of like what Michael Myers, his costume was going to look like. And I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world, is to see Michael Myers' his clothing rack is all the same outfit. And it reminded me of that movie that Mickey Rourke did, 9.5 Weeks. Have you seen that one?
I have not, but Mickey Rourke is an underrated actor.
Well, dude,
very underrated.
That film was his best movie of all time, 9.5 Weeks. He has an affair with Kim Basinger for like 9.5 weeks, and then the movie's over. The relationship ends, but it's an amazing film. But when you go to his house and you open up his closets, all he had was the same white shirts and the same black jackets, and it was like it reminded me of the Michael Myers rack, where it's just like one outfit is all the person wears. But anyway, yeah, that's great. So he was a meat lovers guy. That's awesome. You could tell a lot, because if he had put pineapple on his pizza, that would have ruined who Michael Myers is. Like, I would have been like, "Oh, dude, pineapple? I like pineapple on my pizza, but he's a man's man. Like, he's Michael Myers. He's not supposed to have pineapple on his pizza." So the fact that he's a total hardcore carnivore meat eater, that's good in itself.
Right, but that's where, going back to Hollywood really quick before I talk about Inside the Greens. But I appreciate you bringing that up. But that's what the goal has always been, and that's kind of how I am as a person. It's, you care about people as a person first. And I brought up this discussion just with people at work, where if you're a famous Hollywood actor, and let's just use me for example, it will never happen in a million years, and you were born, Trent Brinkley, and you became a Hollywood actor, and your agent tells you, Trent Brinkley's not a good stage name. You're not gonna get a lot of attention going by the name Trent Brinkley. So why don't you change it? As soon as you change it, Trent Brinkley no longer exists ever again. So you can't ever talk about your childhood. You can't. If somebody calls you Trent, if it's a friend, do you go by Trent anymore, or do you go by your new name? Because going back to Charlton Heston is not his real name. And with Charlton, did he go by John in close circles or like with family, or does family have to call him Charlton when he was alive? Like
That's
Ritter.
weird. I never thought about that, but like for example, the other day I was on Wikipedia. Don't ask me why. I was on Wikipedia and I was looking up just information on Brie Larson. I happen to like Brie Larson. I think she's a really talented actress, and she's a lot of people have been coming down on her because once you get to a certain status, you have a kind of a podium, and has been a little preachy, but I don't mind anything she's been talking about. But Brie Larson's father is French Canadian, and she's got the craziest real last name. Brie Larson is not her name; it's Brienne something Lachololo Shonache. I don't have it on me, but I mean that's like when I read it, I was like, holy man, I can understand why she cut it down to Brie Larson. That is just,
Right.
that's insane.
But that's something I've always wanted to know is like Charles Bronson. His real name was Charles Bronson-Kowski. Did anybody ever call him?
Bronson-Kowski?
Yeah, he was Polish. He was a Polish immigrant. His family was a Polish family. But did anybody ever call him Mr. Bronson-Kowski on set? No, they probably call him Bronson because you don't want to mess with Charles Bronson.
No, you don't want to mess with Charles Bronson. And, like Charles Bronson, he died of dementia and Alzheimer's. And I can't imagine having a career like he had and in the end not remembering any of it. All the adventures, all the people he interacted with, the gunslinging, the dramatic performances, and then and when you die of dementia or Alzheimer's, your organs stop working, and that's most people who die from dementia die because, not to get morbid, but they die because they stop eating because they forget to eat, so their body starts losing weight, and that's why they have to go on assisted help with people to help feed them and stuff. But I can't imagine being someone with the stature of Charles Bronson, and then in the end, you don't remember any of your life, like it's all gone, and that's really scary. And then, but we can talk about Charles Bronson and keep his memory alive, and his cinematic career will keep his memory alive, but it's just sucks that he couldn't remember any of it in the end. All right, well let's get back to food though, because
yes, I want to make you more hungry.
Yeah, I don't want to go. I don't want to get too morbid here.
No.
But so yeah. So all right, are you going to be visually showing people how to cook with ingredients? Is that how you're going to be doing it, or you just, what's the MO here on the the ingredients? What's going on with that part of the podcast?
So inside the ingredients. So how
inside the ingredients.
Inside the ingredients. Yeah. So how this is going to work? It's going to be a two-part show. The first 30 minutes is a one-on-one interview with the chef or the restaurant owner, or somebody that's cooked for a long time and is retired, or a cookbook author, or just somebody that's just getting started. And so how it's going to work is if Shaun, I'm in talks with the head chef right now at a downtown restaurant in Wilmington. Can't say which one. We're in talks to get it all situated. During COVID-19,
I hope it's circa 1922.
Can't tell you.
Okay. So, I love that restaurant, by the way, and I don't care if I plug it. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. We're not on, the FCC can't control this.
Yeah,
we're not doing Plagola. So how it's going to work is if I was to interview Shaun, and Shaun's the head cook, you talk about their career for the first 30 minutes, what they got into it, why they do it, what they kind of do to get the next generation going that wants to be a cook, what the day of their life is like. And it kind of will help me as a cook grow as well, because I have aspirations, and I said on my homepage on the website, is to open up something in the mountains in 5 to 10 years. But if I can be a sponge, not a rag, I use this example a lot, a sponge in the kitchen, absorb and wanting to learn and mold and grow, it will help me in the long run. But then the last 30 minutes is I'm going to give the cook 10 minutes to make a 10-minute dish, and they can use whatever ingredients they want. Obviously, it can't be like Wagyu beef or gold
Right.
or truffles because I don't make enough money to buy truffles. But maybe like a simple pasta dish or a quick sandwich or a nice summer salad or, a dessert. And then I'm going to go to the grocery and buy exactly what I need to make that. And I'm going to turn around and try to replicate their dish and make it more customer friendly. So if you
I
got
think that's great.
a single mom, yeah, and if you got a single mom that wants to make chicken parm for her family, but now she works 9 to 5. And by the time she gets home at 5:30, she's got to make noodles. She's got to bread chicken. She's got to pan fry it, get sauce, make a salad, do all that stuff for the kids. By the time it's 7:30, she's worn out. Or you get a family that wants to do more stuff for the family. Tacos are great and all, and a pizza is great and all, but doing more stuff for a family where, especially in these times, meals are going to be important. And so if the cook if Shaun wants to say, I'm going to make, a dinner for you guys to watch a movie, and tonight's dinner is going to be, since Shaun's a pescatarian, we'll do, shrimp Alfredo. But he's going to make it where it's kid friendly, where you hide in vegetables, where you make like a pesto Alfredo and you put in spinach in there with the pesto to get another vegetable in there. Or you use whole wheat noodles, and just kind of taking what they've made and make it healthier, or you make it more user friendly or consumer friendly or family friendly. And then I'll post the recipe and as well as showing you my version of cooking it. Now that I've got a good kitchen where I live, because before it was all right, but now I've got countertops that are nice. You've got a good range. I want people to see that anybody can cook, and cooking doesn't have to be a grilled cheese and soup or a cup of noodle during this pandemic. You can make inexpensive meals. Like last night I know you don't eat chicken, but you could do this with cauliflower, or you could substitute tofu. But
What'd you make? What'd you make? You're getting me hungry. What'd you make?
So I made those African wings, but you could substitute fish, Shaun.
Right.
You could do a piece of flounder or tilapia, or you could do shrimp and just pan fry your fish and just toss it into pesto. And for the people that are joining late, obiata is tomatoes, red peppers, garlic, lemon juice, and parsley. You can add white wine if you want, because white wine goes really good with seafood. You could put that in sauce. But serving that, and I just made that, with saffron rice and mac and cheese. Done. But mac and cheese, you don't have to use cheese sauce. I saw somebody make cheese sauce without cheese.
Yeah, I
or
saw.
Or you can use dairy-free cheese if somebody's lactose intolerant in the family. Or you can make cauliflower rice. And the world is limitless, but inside the ingredients goal is to give a family or a single mom or a single person that's just starting on their own and can only spend $50 to $100 a week in groceries, but wants to eat good meals and doesn't want to just eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
I think that's great.
And so that's the goal. And cooking for me is always going to be a love, and I think this way I can connect with other cooks and other restaurateurs in the area, because you're right, Wilmington's got a lot to offer in food. And my Instagram now is Port City Creator 17 for those that want to follow me. Love it. Hope
Hey,
to see you
know
there.
what? But when in the description of this video, I'm gonna put, taking the lead. I'll take all your social media links. You just hit me up with them. I'll make sure they go in the comment section so that everybody can check it out and look forward to quick 10-minute meals and things like that. And
I'm the guy version of Rachel Ray. I'll be Richie Ray.
Yeah, there you go.
Richie Ray.
Actually really interested in seeing the authors that you get on the media section of the podcast. And once again, I love the Hollywood Block Party, the entertainment stuff that you do. Again, you really knock it out of the park with all the research that you do for all of your guests. But let me go back. We've been talking for a long time, but let me go back real quick to Omega Man.
Yes.
I know we're jumping around here.
Totally
Did you
fine.
like the 1964 Vincent Price version, or did you like Charlton Heston's version, or did you like Will Smith's I Am Legend version? Which of the three films? Because I'll tell you what, I think all of them are unique in their own right. The only thing I would say that just destroys me every time I watch it is in I Am Legend with Will Smith when he has to kill his own dog. Oh my God, because I've got a dog. And he's actually on the floor next to me in his bed snoring. My pit bull, Indiana Jones. And
Really?
he, you know, that scene just rips my heart out. But then there's scenes, you know, again, it's like when Charlton Heston, you know, spoiler alert, dies at the end. The movie came out in 1971, so come on, people, if you haven't seen it yet. The Vincent Price version, like what do you think as far as those three films? Like, what are the strong points? What are the weak points? What do you know, obviously special effects aren't going to be that great in 1964, the 1970, when they filmed it in 70, the 1971 Charlton Heston version. But like, what do you think about the three films?
So we'll start with the oldest. Vincent Price version, I think, did a really good job at first with the opening part of the movie. It builds up a great dialogue. It builds up really good suspense. And then at the end, it seemed very hurried, where they kind of lost track of time with filming. We're going to get straight to the end. We're going to have his chase down really quick. We're going to make him die really quick at the end. And there's no real like remorse for him, like being immune to the disease. In the Charlton Heston version, the opening, and you brought it up with the Will Smith version, the opening of the Charlton Heston one is, I think, one of the best opening scenes of a movie ever.
I think so too.
It's 5 to 6 minutes long. He's just driving along. You got music playing in the background. He's just driving along. You're like, if you never saw the original, you're like, this sounds like a really good movie.
Yeah.
And then he just gets out of his car and shoots his Tommy gun through a window trying to kill somebody. And then it goes another 5 minutes of him doing it again. And you're like,
what is going on? That's great.
And then it goes straight into the action where, again, it goes back to the point where I bring up where you're torn of, God, I feel really sad for Charlton Heston. He's the last man on earth. He's immune to some disease and pandemic that's going on, and it slowly unravels what led to it, how he discovered it, how he built up the immunity. And then you're torn of who to pull for, Anthony Zerbe and the Brothers in the Dark.
Right.
You pull for Charlton, and then Charlton meets a girl, and they fall in love. It gets a little lost, and then at the end,
he gets
see
harpooned.
that Charlton. Yeah, he gets his heart broken. Spoiler.
Yeah, right.
I wouldn't say broken, broken, stabbed.
Yeah.
But
he's like
the
Christ, isn't he? Like Christ.
Yes.
He's hanging there like almost crucified. He looks like Christ in this. Yeah, very biblical. That is the thing with Charlton Heston, is whether it would be, you know, Moses or whatever. Like, he was very spiritual and understood the visualization of those kind of things. People would relate that to other things. Now, the Will Smith movie.
The Will Smith movie, great opening. Again, great homage to the one with Charlton Heston. I really don't like that they used a grenade at the end, like a grenade of all things, to sacrifice himself. Like, that's where you should pay homage to both the Vincent Price and the Charlton Heston. Both of them died from a spear. Now we're going modern with a grenade. That's like with, you know, Saving Private Ryan, where Tom Hanks gets shot, but somehow he blows up a tank with a pistol. That would be the equivalent of making another Saving Private Ryan and trying to blow up a tank. We'll just throw a sword at it, and it blows up the tank.
Well, those creatures, or the people that had been infected, you know, it's crazy because you almost felt sorry for the one that was the lead one that was trying to get to Will Smith.
Matthias.
Yeah, you almost felt sad for him when he did kill them all at the end. But I don't know. I think the CGI was a little weak in I Am Legend on those creatures, but again, it was a little early on. You know, I don't know how the budgets were, what the budget was for I Am Legend, but it seemed like they didn't have the CGI down for those creatures. Like, they should have done them with people in costumes. Instead, they were all completely animated, and I think that was a problem with the final aesthetic of the film, which, at least in the first two versions of the movie, there's no such thing as CGI in 64 and 70. So, you know, you just
It's like Westworld. It's like Westworld, and that's another side tangent. But like the original Westworld, I know that's one of your favorite movies. Is
dude with
that's
Yul
really
Brynner.
well
Are you
done.
kidding me? That
Yul Brynner, James Brolin,
James Brolin. Are you kidding me, dude?
Richard Benjamin.
Richard
Who
Benjamin. Let me tell you something.
do you know?
That movie is still better than the Westworlds that's on HBO.
Do you know Richard Benjamin? Here's another side tangent. He directed The Money Pit.
I did not know that. You're
Yes.
kidding me. The Tom
Side-
Hanks movie with Shelley Long?
Tom Hanks. Yes, he directed. Fun fact: Richard Benjamin from Westworld did that. But that's
is
a
cool.
great. But I love, and this is, I know we've talked a long time, but there's something about these really old movies that you can, for me, is just something that I've enjoyed. Where it's like if they remade, A Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, if they remade that today, it wouldn't have the same effect.
It would not. It would not have the same
Burl
effect.
Ives and Elizabeth Taylor and Paul Newman. Where are you going to find three people on that status that
You're not.
brought it for 3 hours where you could really feel that you feel like you're Paul Newman, Burl Ives, or Elizabeth Taylor? You're not going to get that.
No, and I think there's a generation of actors that once they were gone, whether it be Steve McQueen or Paul Newman, once there was a certain generation of actors that passed on, everyone else seems to be, I don't know. I mean, I hate to throw people under the bus, but I just feel like there was a certain time in Hollywood history where certain actors were just so damn good. And although we have great actors now, I absolutely love Viola Davis. We all seem to love Tom Hanks. Michael Caine, will always be one of the great actors in my mind. Anthony Hopkins. I mean, there are so many people out there we could name. But there was something about that era. I don't know if it was just the 60s but it seemed to die off towards the late 70s. It was like this sweet spot in the 60s where there was all these just brilliant actors. And now, I don't know.
Look at Sean Connery. It's like going back to Indiana Jones 5. I know Sean has retired from acting.
He lives in the Bahamas. He's got an island in the Bahamas he lives on.
You better call it 007 Island. That's all I gotta say. Shaken, not stirred island. It's got to have. It's got to have some great ring to it. Like I imagine like that. Like you're the Weather Channel, and here comes Hurricane Trent, and it's going to skirt, to the east of Shaken, not stirred island. Somebody just goes like, "Who the heck lives on that island?"
Well, I'll give you a little trivia here. When one of the reasons why Michael Caine took on the role of Hoagie in Jaws: The Revenge was because they were shooting in the Bahamas, and he got to stay. Sean Connery and Michael Caine are best friends, like best friends, and he got to stay the entire shoot for Jaws: The Revenge with Sean Connery on his island for most of the filming, and it was funny because he had just come off an Oscar win. And then the next movie he did was Jaws: The Revenge. And everybody was like, why would you do that kind of movie? And he was like...
who wouldn't want to go to the Bahamas?
He was like, they were paying me to go hang out with Sean Connery in the Bahamas. Like, why would I not go do that movie? I just love that story.
And I think you're right. I think the 60s and 70s hit the sweet spot in great acting. Like, my favorite Errol Flynn film, and I know a lot of people my generation, I'm 27, a lot of people have probably never heard of Errol Flynn.
Nobody your age watches Errol Flynn. And it's funny, I learned something new. So I am Generation X, right?
Yes, I remember your video on this topic.
I did a video on this. And Gen Z would be you, right?
Yes, I'm not a millennial.
No, you're not a millennial. You're Gen Z. And funny thing is that now they're calling you guys Zoomers. Because they talk about boomers,
Zoomers.
You're Zoomers, and I was like, I heard that today, and I was like, I wouldn't want. Gen X is great. I'm happy being called Gen X, but Gen Z, I was like, that's not bad, but Zoomers, oh, dude, I would punch somebody if they called me a Zoomer. So
And I'm going to make that a challenge to people, where take an old movie,
okay,
find
yeah.
an old movie, and watch it. So I'm going to turn. I know I probably shouldn't since we're on video, and I'm going to have
Now
to
go
pull it
ahead.
up. I
Turn
don't
it
know
on.
where it is,
I don't know if
but
it'll show.
I'll just bring out the movie case. So for those that can't see, the movie is Brian's Song.
Brian's
Right?
song. And what's his name just passed away? The real life.
Yes. Gail
That
Sayers.
Gail
All right.
Sayers. That Billy D. Williams played him, and Gail Sayers
Yes. You
just
you
passed
brought
away.
alluded to
Brian's
what I did.
song. James Caan is fantastic in that, and that was a made-for-TV movie, and it
Yes.
is absolutely one of the best sports films in history. And
Right.
go
But
ahead.
look at that movie. No, I was going to say, but a movie like that you could do with Billy T. Williams and James Caan, and it's a great movie that anybody could really love. It's the Rudy before Rudy.
It was the Rudy
Because
before Rudy. Yeah, exactly.
yes, and Billy D. Williams did another movie. This is a movie I've alluded to, I think, with you, or I brought up with Mr. Rhodes, was Nighthawks.
Nighthawks
Billy
with
D. Williams.
Stallone.
Stallone, and it's Rutger Hauer.
Rutger Hauer is
Spedders.
the villain. Yeah, dude,
Yes.
dude.
But
Nighthawks is a great movie.
But like a movie like Nighthawks, and if you love Blade Runner, go watch Nighthawks. If you like Logan's Run, you would like any current science fiction, mind blown kind of, 1984, before 1984. And I know people are going to look at Logan's Run and kind of parallel it to 1984, but Logan's Run was ahead of its time. Or the movie Rollerball, not the new one, the
No.
original with James Caan. That's set in 2020.
Well,
So
I mean,
we still got
look at films like Tron was ahead of its time, and
Yes.
the visual effects still kind of hold up till this day, but not really. But there are certain films in history that, yeah. What was the other? A lot of Harvey Korman films were ahead of their time, right? Is that who I'm talking about? With like Death Race and stuff like that were all.
Yep, the original Death Race with Stallone. Stallone was in the original.
Stallone was in the original. Yeah.
Death Race 3000. Yeah.
Oh God,
I mean,
dude. This is great.
great. I know. And speaking of Stallone, like I learned this the other day, Stallone has a brother, Frankie Stallone.
Oh yeah, Frank
and,
Stallone. Yeah, I've known about Frank
and
for
Frank,
years.
And Frank did the soundtrack to Staying Alive, the sequel to Saturday Night Fever with Travolta. And if you go and watch the original, you don't have to watch the movie. I'm not a fan of the movie. Travolta's a good actor. I can't watch him dance for 2 hours. I'm
Well,
sorry, that's not my kind of.
disco's tough, man. It's tough to watch. But go ahead.
Disco's been dead since the 70s,
Yes.
just like how it was brought up at that 70s show. But in the intro, Travolta bumps into somebody on the street, and the camera turns because both characters do that awkward look of like, dude, did you just bump into me? And when Travolta looks at the guy, they don't show Travolta looking at him. They show the guy that Travolta is staring down, and guess who it happens to be?
Frank Stallone.
Sylvester
Oh, it was
Stallone.
Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
Well, Frank Stallone has done movies himself too. He's kind of like Patrick Swayze's brother. That Patrick Swayze's brother does a lot of movies, and yeah, he kind of rode in on the coattails of Patrick. But he still, I mean, I just saw him. I think he did a Hyundai commercial or something not too long ago. I saw Patrick Swayze's brother in something. He looks just like Patrick. A little
And
rough
that would
around
have
the
been
edges, but.
That would have been somebody I would have loved to interview because, most people are going to go immediately to him with Roadhouse or Red Dawn, but Patrick was in a Civil War movie way before that as a little known extra.
The Blue and the Gray.
Yes, and do you know who happened to be in the Blue and the Gray? I'll give you a hint. We've talked about him.
Jan Michael Vincent.
No, we talked about him recently. Jordan Rhodes was in it.
Jordan Rhodes was in The Blue and the Gray. I had no
With
idea.
Gregory Peck. Gregory Peck played Abraham Lincoln.
I remember that.
Peck. Yes, but Jordan Rhodes was in it.
Dude, Jordan's great.
I mean, it's complete full circle where you never know who's in a film like Glory. Like, if I was to interview Matthew Broderick, I'm not going to what he's done recently. It's going to be, we're going to talk about Glory. We're going to talk about War Games. Not the new one, the one that he was in. And then I forgot the movie he was in where he was like a tech guy for a space company. that was using monkeys to learn how to like fly shuttles.
Yes, I remember that film. Oh, it was
But like,
sad because then they hit him with like radiation or something to see what the apes would do in a nuclear blast or something like that. And then he wanted to free them. Oh God, what was the name of that movie? I'll pop a picture up on the screen because I'll find it later when I do the post on this video. But Project X, was it Project X?
yes, there it is.
Yes.
See, now,
Dude, I remembered it.
but but that's what I would talk about with him, or his career on Broadway. I want to go straight into
Dude, he would rather, if I ever had a chance to interview Matthew Broderick, he would rather talk about Broadway than I think anything else.
right. He's going to get Ferris Bueller. Like everybody's going to ask him who saved Ferris yet.
Yeah, I mean that's just all that's
But
you know.
but that goes back to what I talk about. It's you talk about their entire career. You talk about what they've done, and you just treat them like a person. And I think that's what my stuff. My goal, and for those that listen to this later, my goal is not to have 20 million views or to have 1 million subscribers. It's to have one person that finds something that they remember that actor, that meal about, or that author they've read a book, and then you hear great stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you learn a great appreciation for the author, the cook, or the actor. And
One other
that's always going to be my goal.
Well, I think it's a great goal, and again, I'll put all the contact info in the description below so people could check out Taking the Lead podcast. And The Outsiders was another one of those movies that had C. Thomas Howell, Ralph Macchio, Patrick Swayze was in that, Matt Dillon was in that. Wait, I got one more. Tom Cruise was in that. I think Emilio Estevez was in that.
And we all know who Emilio just signed up to do the Mighty Ducks TV show.
Oh, for Disney Plus. You know what? I'm glad. It'll be interesting to see how that comes back. But you know who else was in that? Was in the Mighty Ducks was Joshua Jackson.
Yes.
So it would be very interesting in some capacity if they brought him back as maybe a professional hockey player, so that he went on to go to the majors. That might be pretty awesome.
The Ducks? That's the ultimate question. Will they get the rights to use Anaheim and maybe say that he ended up playing for the Ducks?
Let me tell you something. Disney has more money than anyone else on the planet. And if they want Josh Jackson, they'll pay Josh Jackson what he wants. And the Mighty Ducks, the whole Anaheim, all that stuff, forget it, dude. They own it all. Disney's got money coming out the wazoo. And even in this pandemic, they've always had money. They've been killing it all the time. So I can't imagine that they're not.
See, if I could give Disney my 2 cents. Literally, I give them more than my 2 cents. I can't write anything at Disney. I know Universal has, they've done stuff with Halloween. They've done stuff where they've done, Harry Potter. I can't do anything that's virtual or a roller coaster. I know that sounds lame. When I go to Disney, the only thing I can do is Epcot and the Indiana Jones show. And let me tell you, when you've seen the Indiana Jones films like 600 times, the stunt show is nothing special because you've seen the movie 600 times.
Right. Well, here's the deal. I've never been to Disney or Disneyland or Disney World. My wife is like, oh my God. And now that, they've got Galaxy's Edge with the Millennium Falcon sitting there and all that stuff, we're definitely trying to plan a trip at some point once the pandemic's over.
I can imagine that.
Because I've got to see the Millennium Falcon. But you're tall, right?
5'9".
Oh, I'm 5'9".
I'm taller than Tom Cruise.
I'm 5'9".
I got that going.
So we're the same height. I was thinking when you said you can't do the rides, that you were too tall to be on the rides.
Thank you. I wish. Yeah, like David Prowse. Yeah, I wish. Or Richard Kern, all 7'6". Yeah, I wish. No. Yeah. No. With vertigo and motion sickness, can't do it.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure Shaquille O'Neal's right there with you as not being able to get on any of the rides at Disney World.
Yeah, but he played basketball for a living. I mean, he's got that going for him. He's on TV. He's now involved in Papa John's. I mean, but for Disney, why not do something more geared to the people that grew up watching those Disney original movies? Like I grew up watching Angels in the Outfield. I watched the original, not the Christopher Lloyd one, but the one from the 50s. But do the one with, why not build a baseball field and let kids be the Angels in the Outfield? I don't know.
Let me tell you, I just have to say,
movie land.
You said you're 27.
Yes.
Dude, the encyclopedia in your head of classic films is mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing.
It's how I was raised. I give all the thanks to my grandparents. I love them to death. And my grandparents kind of, I grew up watching, Abbott and Costello, Who's on First. And
I love Abbott and Costello. Or Abbott and Costello meet the Frankenstein monster, Abbott and Costello meet Dracula, where they got to meet Bela Lugosi. Are you kidding me?
I can do the entire Who on First by myself. I can do both people by myself. And I do it at work sometimes, and people really don't know.
They're like, what? Who? What are you talking about? That's what I said. No, what?
Right, but I can do the whole thing. But it's, and if people could see my movie collection and watch it's just who I am. It's, I just love the appreciation of really old movies, because the actor put in, and nothing against actors today, but again, I've not been in the industry, so I don't like throwing people under the bus. But people then, Charlton Heston, going back to him really quick, he did Omega Man, he did Skyjacked, and then he did 2 more movies, like all back to back to back to back. And we brought it up how the Omega Man was made in 2 months, and then he did another movie in 1972, and it's insane where people did it like that.
Yeah,
but
and when they shot Iron Man 3 here in Wilmington, it was they were here for 10 months, but that was only one part of the show, and that movie was a 65-day shoot, and it took 10 months. They were here building building the sets before they went into the 65-day shoot, and they still needed to go to other places to film after that. So it's amazing how long it takes to make a movie now these days, to where it wouldn't. And the other thing that people forget about the classics, the black and white movies, is you had to light things differently. And most of the stuff was done on sound stages. They didn't go out on location very often. And so it was a different way to film and to light, and you have to give respect to that. And it was kind of like the new movie that had just came out recently called The Lighthouse with Willem Dafoe and Rob Pattinson. I don't know if you've seen that, but that was shot in black and white. It was shot standard, not 16:9. It was shot like the old square TVs. And the director utilized all the lighting, the classic lighting tricks. And I'll tell you what, it was a wild movie to watch. You've got to see The Lighthouse. And Robert Pattinson puts on one of the most brilliant acting performances ever. Willem Dafoe was, the guy should have won an Oscar for that role. I don't even know if it's up for anything with this year's Oscars. I have no idea. I haven't been paying attention, but The Lighthouse was just a fantastic movie. If you get a chance, it's a black and white movie, and they shot it, and it's supposed to be in the 1940s. So they made it look like the 1940s, and they made it look like 1940s black and white cinema, and absolutely fantastic movie. You should check it out, The Lighthouse.
But that's good. But that's it. It's movies like that and actors like that, and I don't want to get all spiritual, but one day, I'm going to have these conversations with Paul Newman and Robert Redford and Steve McQueen and Charles Bronson, and be like, or Yul Brynner, and just say, is it like in Westworld, you shot dead James Brolin, and then you smiled at Richard Benjamin when he realizes that you used a live bullet and the robots have now turned. Like, that's one of the greatest, you can make that into a GIF and nobody would get it.
Yeah.
But movies like that and actors like that are gonna pass us, sooner than later. Gene Hackman is now a book writer, and that's something that I talked about with Mr. Rhodes. Was Gene Hackman now writes pirate novels?
Yeah, Gene Hackman. Yeah, it's amazing. Gene Hackman retired after he did the movie Runaway Jury with Dustin Hoffman, and that was his last cinematic role. And he wrote several pirate books with a co-author. Once he got on his feet with that, then he has written some since then, and he's in his 90s. And one of the things that I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, he lives in Arizona. I believe it's Arizona, and they were a hot spot with COVID, and I kept going, Gene Hackman better hide his ass in a hole somewhere. I said, because that's the last thing we need in 2020 is for Gene Hackman to go. Absolutely, one of my favorite actors. Yeah,
the French Connection, or Hoosiers. I mean, running that picket fence. Believe it or not, I stole that play in basketball. The 2 times that I've coached basketball at the center recently, I've installed the picket fence, but we've never run it. So one of these days we'll run the picket fence.
That's funny.
But like, I'm going to do this, and I know it's going to bore the kids, and I hope they're not listening to this because they should be asleep. The football team that I'm assisting right now is, really under the radar. We've had a lot of turmoil this season. They're trying to come together. We got a game on Saturday, but I'm going to make them watch Jim Thorpe, an All-American with the late Burt Lancaster.
Wow.
And Charles Bickford, who was in The Buccaneer with Charlton Heston and Yul Brynner. But I'm going to make the kids watch that because Jim Thorpe's coach in college was Pop Warner. And so
Pop Warner football, right? I got you.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
So we're going to have them watch that and learn, what Jim Thorpe went through in his life, how he overcame a lot, how he lost his son. His son died at a very young age. It affected Jim tremendously. But Jim was discriminated against. He couldn't win medals in the Olympics because he played baseball in North Carolina. They thought he wasn't an amateur anymore. Pop Warner stood behind him. But I'm gonna make the kids watch at some point Brian's song because I told them to research Brian Piccolo.
Dude, you're gonna make all your football players cry with Brian's song. Oh my God, come on, man! You can't do that to the kids. Not before a game.
No, but we won't do it before a game. We might do, but it's because I'm an old soul, but
it's his teammate. It was his friend. It was the loyalty. Yeah. If anybody's out there listening to this podcast, if you haven't seen Brian's song, you need to find that damn movie and watch it. It'll really inspire
Or DM me and I'll give you my copy of the film. The movie's available on YouTube, but that's cheating. You got to actually watch the old version. How it came. And it's because, Shaun, I think especially in a pandemic, people need a sense of hope. And we love those kind of movies where you root for the underdog, you root for, the hero, and the hero may go through ups and downs. And I know you love Star Wars. It's like Star Wars. Luke loses his hand. You find out that Obi-Wan sacrifices himself, and you're like, why did he do that? And then you learn in the 5th one, he did it because it would help Luke out. But Luke loses his hand because he becomes Greek. And then in the 6th one, Anakin comes to the, the help of Luke. And sometimes a hero needs help. And with these kids, I'm doing that with Piccolo. It's because, we've got 4 or 5 kids on this team that are a little undersized. They're a little nervous. They're a little shy. And I told them, maybe you should research Brian Piccolo because Piccolo was undersized. 6'1", 200 pounds is probably the normal size for a running back. But he was undrafted. He worked his tail off. He wasn't, he had to prove himself with Gale Sayers. But he got beat up a lot on the field, took a lot of beating, being a practice squad player. So really, Brian Piccolo, everybody loves the story of a hero that becomes the underdog that goes on to do great things. And that's who I am as a person. I've always been the underdog. And so my goal with myself with taking the lead is to take the underdog's approach and to bring it to the light. And so I hope for this past 2 hours that people have really, enjoyed learning more about me and, enjoy our conversation, Shaun.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, I'll put all I've done this throughout the episode. I'll put all the links in the description below so people can check out Taking the Lead podcast. And I've had a great time, man. We're going to have you back on the show again, definitely, because and we're going to have some sort of movie challenge where you force me to watch something, from back in the day that I haven't seen, and we talk about it.
So, I got some.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do. All right. Well, dude, Trent, thanks for being on the show, man. And we'll see you on the next one.
Absolutely. Take it easy, Shaun.